COVID-19 has put the global economy into a tailspin. Many countries are heading for sudden and unprecedented recession. This crisis has catalyzed some huge changes for social economic realities. Few industries will avoid either being reformed, restructured, or removed, while agility, scalability, and automation will be the watchwords for this new era of business and social interactions. The same can be said for Nigerian businesses, but thanks to government stimulus packages, liquidity is coming back to the market. Will this be enough to keep the economy afloat? What other measures are needed to avoid an economic recession? This is our focus today on Panorama from the Lagos Network Center. I'm Dotun Ugmiemi. Thanks for joining us. Now let's bring you the latest updates from the NCDC that says 38 new cases of COVID-19 have been reported, 23 cases in Kano, 5 in Gombe, 3 in Kaduna, 2 cases each in Borno and Abia, 1 each in the FCT, Ekiti and Sokoto. At 11:10 p.m. 20th April, total number of confirmed cases stood at 665. 180 patients have so far been discharged, with 22 deaths recorded. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has formally apologized to Nigerians for what it calls the unintentional violation of social distancing protocols at the funeral of the late Chief of Staff to the President, Abba Kyari. Chairman of the task force and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, who tendered the apology at a briefing in Abuja, urged Nigerians not to relent until the war against COVID-19 is won. Metari Iben reports.
Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, acknowledged that there was breach of regulations at the funeral of late Chief of Staff to the President, Abba Kyari, but said the breach was unintentional.
The PTF recognizes regrettably the unintentional violation of the principles and protocols that form the core of our messaging to Nigerians at the funeral of the late Chief of Staff. Lessons have been learned and appropriate measures have been taken to close all gaps. We assure all Nigerians of their safety and the determination of the PTF to combat the pandemic.
After review of experiences gathered so far, the Minister of Health said fresh strategies are being developed towards containing coronavirus in Nigeria.
The worrying increase in the frequency and numbers of new persons with COVID-19 being recorded daily is attributable to this new strategy in combination with higher community transmission. A new national action plan is under development to adjust and address this development.
We continue to be concerned about the movement of large number of persons across state borders. We would like to appeal to state authorities to ensure that this does not happen, as this will further increase the risk of spread.
The Presidential Task Force noted that the national response against COVID-19 is Nigeria's most coordinated response to any health crisis in the nation's history, and says it will remain resolute and focused until coronavirus is defeated. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
The steady increase in cases of coronavirus in some states across Nigeria, including the Federal Capital Territory, is of utmost concern and worry to many. Health correspondent Akimat Aliu in this report brings us up to speed on the situation of COVID-19 in the FCT as anxiety hits with records of community transmission.
Capital Territory from less than 5 confirmed cases of COVID-19 as at 22nd of March 2020 is presently now above 80. The Acting Secretary, FCT Health and Human Services Secretariat, Dr. Mohammed Kawu, pointed out that more cases are being recorded in Abuja with increased testing capacity and community active case set carried out in Pape, Gishiri, Mabushi and Utako communities.
Mabushi is where we have problem. We tested about 175. Unfortunately, we got about 5 positive cases, and most of them have been moved to the treatment center in Asokoro. We also went to Gishiri community. We tested about 121. We also had 1 positive.
Dr. Kawu also noted with concern community infection transmission, which has set in, and if not properly handled, can lead to escalation of coronavirus cases.
The elitist areas, you have a man with a wife and 2 kids, and they hardly have people around them. But in the communities, they live communal life. As you know, communal life, they do everything together. And that is going to make the spread very, very rapid and fast.
Meanwhile, in a search for practical analysis on issues surrounding COVID-19, I interestingly came across Esther.
What we've done is we've tried to use information from NCDC, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, and the information we have on the isolation centers, and plug it into our GIS software to create an operations dashboard. So it shows you the spread of the virus. It's as easy as creating an application linked to the software where people can easily fill on their mobile phones suspect cases, track symptoms they are having, and the NCDC can visualize that on the dashboard and be able to locate people they know that require urgent treatment or urgent intake into their flow.
She noted that they are looking forward to partnering with the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and other government agencies, emphasizing tracking the geographic statistics as important to accurately combat the spread of the dreaded virus with necessary resources. In Abuja, Hakimat Aliu, NTA News.
To curb the spread of COVID-19 in Lagos State, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu says government will make wearing of face masks at public places compulsory from next week after the production and distribution of the masks across the state. The governor made this known while briefing journalists on the update of COVID-19 in the state. Nosa Usula has the details.
During the early days of the coronavirus pandemic, health experts made it clear that unless you're sick or a medical professional, you do not need to wear a face mask. With COVID-19 cases soaring, experts now say face masks can help slow COVID-19, despite previous claims. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who assured residents that government was doing everything to contain the spread of the virus, stated that government is collaborating with the organized private sector to ensure availability of the masks.
Let me assure you that there is no need to panic. The increase in numbers we're seeing is evidence of the success of our evolving strategy of wrapping up testing by going into our local communities.
The governor warned against discriminating against those who have been treated and discharged, saying they are free to relate with their families and the community. He urged those feeling the symptoms of the virus to present themselves for testing in order for them to get the necessary help they require.
I would like to employ us all that we should refrain from sharing news and reports that have not been verified or that seek to cause fear and danger amongst us.
The governor also called on Muslim faithful to maintain the social distancing as they observe Ramadan. In Lagos, Nosa Usula, NTA News.
Federal government has constituted an Interministerial Committee with a mandate of ensuring food production and supply during the lockdown period. Musa Babaliu has the details.
The Interministerial Committee was constituted with a view to looking at issues affecting food security and agricultural activities during the lockdown, not only in Abuja, Lagos and Ogun State, but the entire country. The committee consists of Minister of Agriculture Mahmoud Sabananono, that of Defense Bashir Magashi, that of Interior Rauf Aregbesola, and that of Police Affairs Maigari Dingyadi. and Commandant of the Nigeria Civil Defense.
Agreed that law enforcement agents to liaise with local governments and state with officials in determining modalities for facilitating the movement of foodstuff and from markets during the lockdown.
They agreed that the opportunity should not be abused by transporting contraband items, including illicit drugs, arms and ammunition.
Agreed that the resolution of this meeting will in turn be communicated to the chairman, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, chairman of Governors Forum and the chairman of ALGON for information and further action.
The 4 ministers are to convene a periodic review meeting to assess the situation and advise the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 on the way forward. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
In fulfillment of its promise to cushion the effect of the lockdown, local government areas in Lagos State have commenced the feeding of the vulnerables in their localities. Annie Daniels has the details.
The federal and state governments, in the quest to make life comfortable for Nigerians amidst COVID-19 lockdown, made available palliatives like food stimulus for the vulnerable. Corporate organizations, individuals, groups and non-governmental organizations are also complementing the efforts of these 2 tiers of government to bring succor to the people to survive the lockdown.
But we just expanded to also include other beneficiaries, and that is in hundreds of thousands of naira. We are reaching out to thousands of these trader and market people that we are giving this intervention to.
That's more than enough that we believe will continue to push down to our citizens.
And for indigents of Lagos, they cannot thank the government less for the gesture.
Government workers, they are the ones that invite us, that they are sharing food here because of there is no work. So they are using it to assist the citizens of the country.
Food, rice, with chicken and water. At least this is okay.
God will bless them. Thank you.
The step, the state government says, will remain until situations normalize.
We are supporting the state's drive to see how we can feed additional people, more people to what the state is doing already as a local council, because we are the ones that they see. We are the closest to the grassroots, and we have to do what we have to do to make them happy, put smiles on their faces.
This exercise is replicated in all local government areas in the state. In Lagos, Annie Daniels, NTA News.
Let's take a break now. Panorama continues shortly.
Coronavirus is dangerous. It can kill. When you see this sign, high fever, cough, shortness of breath, drowsiness, pneumonia, don't panic, don't hide, don't embark in self-medication. Promptly visit the nearest medical facility. Report all cases to the nearest hospital. Prevention is key. Avoid contact with infected persons. Avoid crowded areas as much as possible. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Your life is precious. Stay alive. Live long. Live right. This message is sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture and the Nigerian Film Corporation. Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possible.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
Glad to have you back. Now, as COVID-19 pandemic continues its deadly march through the continent, Nigeria inclusive, corporate organizations and individuals are adapting to the present reality by putting in place some of the lessons learned so far with the lockdown. Ken Ibeluge completes the story.
for a country like Nigeria, which has not experienced a lockdown of this nature, having to stay at home close to a month is an experience citizens will not forget in a hurry. But the reality on ground calls for a more pragmatic approach in doing things on the flip side of the lockdown.
We have been on lockdown, but work has been going on. What has happened is that we have moved work from the physical brick and mortar, buildings that we go on a daily basis to our homes. The lesson is that this is the new normal.
Another important lesson I've learned, and which I know other Nigerians too have learned, is prudency. Now you don't spend indiscriminately.
Important thing is staying alive, being alive at least. Because it's when you're alive that, of course, you can go ahead with other plans that you have.
During this lockdown, let's reflect on really, truly what life is all about. And after this lockdown, let's not go back to our old ways again. Once in a while, let's lock down ourselves. Let's lock down ourselves. Let's look, I locked down for 1 month, I didn't die. So let me lock down myself for 2 days, 3 days.
With fingers crossed and the flames of hope kept alive in hearts across the globe, countries, medical experts, corporate bodies, and individuals in the thick of the problem have already started putting plans in place for life post-COVID-19. In Lagos, Ken Igbeluge, NTA News.
Now, in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic, several realities have been thrown up, especially economic and social realities. Now, to join me to discuss some of these realities is a financial expert, Samuel Shoumi, who joins me now live via Skype. Hello, Samuel.
Hello, good afternoon, Dr.
Your assessment of how the federal government and the Lagos state government are managing COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I'd like us to look at the various approach that the federal government has adopted. Firstly, federal government came up with the setting up of a presidential task force, and we also have the other committee that is looking at the economic impact of it. That committee is headed by the vice president. Just yesterday again, federal government has started looking at, coming up with a interministerial committee again that will look at the issue of food security. This tells you how well the government is, ready to face the pandemic and also to tackle the issue of its impact on the people. Now, the federal government is doing so well, looking at what the NCDC is doing, across the 36 states in Nigeria, setting up of isolation centers and building capacities. You could see that the rate at which we started our testing was not as much as what we have now. Now, testing has improved. We have seen situations where testing has now been taken to community, and this will equally go a long way to to contain the pandemic. In all, federal government has done creditably well, but there's still more to be done. And I'm very sure that the president is very, very serious about it. You see that in his last address, the president addressed the issue of the poor and the vulnerable people by increasing the number of people that should benefit from the social intervention fund. That is another thing to look at. It's a right step in the right direction. It is good, but we still need to do more. And then we also see the way the Lagos state government has equally, started, its own approach in containing the pandemic. The Lagos state government has really tried. We've seen what Governor Sanwo-Olu is doing in terms of setting up isolation centers. And now, Lagos state has equally set up testing centers across 20 local government and LCDAs, in Lagos state. This is a right step in right direction. The government of Lagos State is doing very well. The governor is championing the cause and is doing it very, very well. They have done creditably well. We as citizens, we need to support the government. We need to adhere to the basic guidelines in terms of combating the virus. If every one of us could support the government and adhere, we will go a long way to actually combat this pandemic.
Now, let's take a look at post-economic strategies. What should government do to weather the storm?
Well, now, thank you for that question. At this point in time, we'll see that, firstly, government quickly needs to acquaint itself with the basic lesson that we have learned during this lockdown. We see that the pandemic has actually exposed our inadequacies in the area of health sector, as well as the area of food security. So, post-pandemic, government should come up with decisive economic policy that will address the basic necessity of life. Address basic necessity of life in the area of healthcare sector, in the area of food security, in the area of housing, and in the area of intervention fund for SME. We are talking about healthcare sector. I find there is a huge gap. Government alone cannot handle this. So there is need for collaboration between government and private, sector. So for us to be able to survive and weather the storm, we have to come up with policies that will entice the private sector to invest in the health sector. We should be thinking of coming up with reforms like, for instance, let's look at the issue of a contributory, social health scheme, whereby we can have a kind of a contribution between each employee and the employer into a pool that will generate a lot of funds that can be deployed into the healthcare sector. If we come up with that kind of reform, it will equally, stimulate demand for healthcare services. It's going to raise a lot of jobs. One, we need to build capacity. Two, we need our people to be able to have access to affordable healthcare services. Then another thing that we have to quickly action on, executing projects in the area of food security. The agricultural value chain needs to be looked at. Governments need to create an enabling environment that will generate a lot of investment.
All right, Samuel, quickly, oil prices have dwindled to about $11. What will be the impact on global economies and Nigeria in particular?
The dwindling oil prices is not a peculiar problem to Nigeria alone. It's a global thing. As it is affecting Nigeria, is equally affecting other, economy around the world. What Nigerian government should do is that we just have to face the reality. And facing the reality simply means that we need to review our budget, which the Minister of Finance, told us of the other time. But now we need decisive, action to support what we are coming up in terms of the budget review. We will review the budget downward, but now there is need for financial discipline in the area of our implementation of projects that we touch the lives of every Nigerian. Government needs to come up with policies that will be targeted towards addressing the needs of the poor and the most vulnerable people in our society. If we can do all this and we can collaborate with the private sector, it will go a long way.
Okay.
It will give us a soft landing.
Okay.
It will enable us to be able to confront and survive and weather the storm.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Samuel Shomu, for your time on Panorama. Many thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
One-time Attorney General of the Federation, Chief Richard Akinjide, is dead. Chief Richard Akinjide was a two-time Minister of the Federal Cabinet. He was the Minister of Education during the government of Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa and the Minister of Justice in President Shehu Shagari's administration. He was born on November 4, 1931 in Ibadan, Oyo State. He attended Oduduwa College, Ile-Ife, from where he passed out in Grade 1 Distinction, Aggregate 6. He traveled to the United Kingdom in 1951 for his higher education and was called to the English bar in 1955 and later in Nigeria. He established his practice of Akinjide & Co. Later, the late legal luminary will be fondly remembered for his brilliance in the case involving Alhaji Shehu Shagari and Chief Obafemi Awolowo, which earned him the nickname Mr. 12 2/3. Now, what could have been a tragedy was quickly brought under control as firefighters arrested the Jos branch office of the Central Bank of Nigeria from going into flames. Ndeyang Adeyobangyang on NTA roving crew reports that no major files or document was lost.
Fire alarm was raised at the Central Bank of Nigeria Jos branch building. The NTA roving crew noticed fire service truck speeding to a fire scene, which got NTA news crew curious. Upon investigation, it was the Central Bank building, as the staff were evacuated outside the main building. On sighting NTA, the security attached to the bank stopped us from taking shots. However, the branch controller agreed to speak off camera. Here is an excerpt of my phone interview with the branch controller, Dunia Yusuf.
Okay. Please, may I know who you are? My name is Dunia Yusuf. I'm the branch controller. Okay. As you know, we are under lockdown. Yes. But we are still providing skeletal services, especially to provide cash for ATMs and all those things. So, in line with our fire system, there was an alarm, fire alarm, and the few staff that are in the building move out. But there are staff that have been trained also to be able to detect this. They were able to trace where the alarm was coming from with much smoke. So because of the thickness of the smoke, we had to call the fire service to be on standby as well to assist, and that was why the fire service were calling. Okay, but after everything has been put down, it was discovered that it was one of the air conditioners in the UPS, okay, in the UPS area that got affected, and then caused the smoke and everything. But everything has been put in order, and the systems have been put back. So in essence, you are saying that no important document was lost? No. It was not even an office. It's where we have this servers that serve backup where it happened. No document at all. And your staff, nobody is hurt? No, nobody. We all came out, and everything has been put under control. Thank you very much, sir.
So far, everything seems calm at the bank in Jos, Ndeyang and the Abuja.
And that has been Panorama from the Lagos Network Center. Many thanks for watching. Good afternoon.
You can follow us on all our